Hi, I'm Emily Keller, and this is my friend Ricky. She's the founder of Icky Small But Brave, which is a baby clothes line based here in Shanghai.
What I'm really passionate about is obviously the fact that it's wool, and I come from a family of wool, so I'm third generation. I think my great grandfather was already scouring wool, and then my grandfather moved to South Africa and started the wool processing plant, which my father then took over, and then my father went to work in Germany in another wool processing plant. So I'm the first generation to make a finished product, but there's something attached to the notion of that if I don't pass on the information of what is wool and this passion and this know-how of what I have, then it sort of ends with me, So I suddenly had this revelation the other day where I thought, I also have a responsibility to pass on what I know. And in a way, I feel like those things are getting lost. I mean, I know I sound really old saying that, but that practical knowledge of process doesn't seem to be in the young generation anymore. Everyone's in either in IT or social media, So which is all great, but you have to have something to talk about. Being in China is a big deal for me. I think there's a very big misconception of what China is like. People seem to think that China is just a cheap manufacturing option. China is no longer cheap, and all those really low-end products are no longer to be found in China. So it's not actually cheaper for me to produce than it is in Europe. I sell here. And I feel like every mother has the right to be able to buy and access product that is fully certified and safe. China is a huge population, and there are very sophisticated consumers. I think China has some of the most sophisticated consumers in the world today, and they are no longer interested in just branding. They really want to know what is behind the brand and what is what does the supply chain look like. So there's been a shift in the way consumers buy. So a mother who has a certain amount of income changes how she distributes that income now. So whereas before she would have bought more product at a lower price, she now, because she is aware of authenticity and asking questions behind a brand, she buys less product but in a higher bracket. So it's not necessarily the wealthier client that's buying, although we do have those, but it's the client that's really questioning what's behind the product. Sometimes the very wealthy clients in China are not the ones we really want, because they're just buying because they can. So they'll come and spend like 2,000 RMB and just buy five of that. But they are not necessary clients that will come back. Whereas we've noticed that with the rest of the clients, every single person that has bought a second and third time. And that's what we want to create. We have the responsibility, like yourself, to put pressure on the supply chain and only buy from manufacturers that are adhering to certain standards and certifications. And if we don't do that, then nothing is going to change. So, a lot of people, also friends in South Africa or in Germany, they say, why are you still in China? And why are you manufacturing China? As if I've chosen this as a cheaper option. And this is a very, very misstrued conception, because I feel very strongly about the fact that leaving China will not help the world. We should stay here and really improve the supply chain. And if we can do that at the end of the chain, then that's our responsibility, because whatever's happening in China is affecting the rest of the world. Whatever processes and manufacturing is taking part here goes up into the environment and affects us all. So I feel very strongly about supply chain and being transparent about my supply chain, and anyone can ask me anything about where I'm doing what and what certifications we adhere to. There's no real big secret, right?
Yeah.
It just means that you're working with mills that have Oeko-Tex, that have Blue Sign, that are treating their workers well, because I've been to really rough factories where they didn't even have enough light or warmth when they're working. If we don't stay here and improve the status quo by putting pressure on the supply chain, then I just feel that's a very fickle way to think about the manufacturing industry. By just leaving and going back to Europe, if I'm here and I have clients here, then I feel like this is where I should be making a difference. The ideal case scenario would be to always produce where you sell, right? So for the products that you're selling in the US, you produce in US. For the products you're selling in Europe, you're selling in...
Ideally.
Yeah.
I think that's best. I think that would be cool to be. It's difficult, but it'd be cool to be able to do that.
But there are ways. I mean, I'm already thinking of ways that there could be, So if you're a designer in New York and I'm a designer and a brand owner here, then why can't I use your factory and you use my factory if we have the same... You know what I mean? There could be ways that, you could integrate and work together globally. But I can see that happening in the future. I think that
so.
it's no longer going to be about, oh, you're producing there or there. It's just going to be about good product should be good product everywhere. If I'm requiring the factory to have certain standards, then that's the same here or anywhere else in the world. And also the living standards will at some point become closer. There will always be the very poor, but I'm talking about the working class will sort of balance out. So one is legacy, second is supply chain, and third is giving back. So a percentage of our sales goes to children in need, and ultimately I would love to become a one-for-one inspired by Tom's. The basis of on which he built his company was on giving back, and I believe he also says if you don't have that as core of your company from the beginning, it will be very hard to do that later. So now we don't have the financial structure to do one-for-one exactly, but ultimately I would love to work with hospitals and clinics and donate, because that's why I left corporate in the end, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was the main reason, because I just felt like 9-to-5 job without having a purpose, a real purpose of why you're doing it. The job in itself can never be a reason for doing it, you know. There must be a greater good, I think. And that's how you can get people on board to work for you, you know, if they see what you're doing on the long term. Because if it's just about a 9-to-5 job, then that's what people can find anyway, right?
It's tough. I think it's tough. Personally, I think it's tough to two things. Like you said, manufacturing in China, and a lot of people, especially people that don't live in China, have